The cold seeps through the thin fabric of my sleeping bag, drawing me from a restless sleep. Something isn't right. The forest seems too quiet, the air too still. I blink against the pale dawn light filtering through our tent's nylon walls. "Tobin?" I call out, my voice hoarse from yesterday's campfire smoke. No answer. I sit up, rubbing sleep from my eyes. Beside me, Willa sleeps soundly, her dark hair spilled across the pillow, one arm clutching the stuffed fox Alden gave her for her 8th birthday. She looks so much like him it makes my heart ache. "Diane? Dad?" I unzip the tent flap and poke my head outside. The clearing is empty. No tents, no vehicles, no coolers or camp chairs or morning coffee percolating on the portable stove. "Hello?" My voice bounces off the surrounding pines, mocking me with its echo. I crawl out, bare feet crunching on fallen pine needles. The space where my brother's oversized tent stood just hours ago is now just flattened grass. The fire pit holds nothing but cold ashes. My father's pride and joy, his vintage Airstream trailer is gone, leaving only tire tracks in the soft earth. The blood in my veins turns to ice water. I spin in a complete circle, scanning the edges of our campsite. Nothing but trees, and more trees, stretching into the vastness of Willamette National Forest. This can't be happening. The words tumble out as I hurry back to our tent, the only structure remaining in the clearing. My hands shake as I grab my phone from beside my sleeping bag. No service, just as there hasn't been since we drove past the last ranger station. I jam my feet into my hiking boots and step back outside, desperation building in my chest. "Tobin!" I scream his name until my throat burns. "Dad! Diane!" Something white catches my eye, a folded piece of paper, tucked beneath a smooth river stone near where the campfire had been. I lunge for it, nearly tripping in my haste. My brother's handwriting stares back at me. "This is for the best. Trust me. Tobin." I read it again, and again. The words don't change. "For the best?" I whisper, my fingers crumpling the paper's edge. What does that even mean? I drop to my knees, suddenly unable to stand. They planned this. My own family planned this. Our backpack sits propped against a nearby log, the day pack we used for yesterday's short hike. I crawl toward it and dump the contents onto the pine needle carpet. 2 water bottles, 3 protein bars, a lighter, a compass. My lungs constrict. Black spots dance at the edges of my vision. The forest around me spins as the realization hits me with physical force. They left us here. They left us here to die. "Mommy?" Willa's sleepy voice snaps me back. I can't fall apart. Not now. Not when my daughter needs me. I shove everything back into the pack with trembling hands and force myself to take 3 deep breaths. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. "Coming, sweetie," I call, my voice miraculously steady. Inside the tent, Willa sits up, rubbing her eyes, her hair a tangled mess around her shoulders. "Where is everybody?" I sit beside her and smooth her hair back from her forehead. "They had to leave early." "Without saying goodbye?" Her lower lip trembles. "I know. It wasn't very nice." Understatement of the century. I swallow the bitter rage rising in my throat. Willa looks at me with Alden's thoughtful brown eyes. "Are you okay, Mom? You look scared." My first instinct is to lie, to protect her. But Alden and I always promised we'd be honest with her, even when it was hard. "I am a little scared," I admit. "But we're going to be okay, I promise." Her small hand finds mine. Daddy used to say we're stronger than we think. The mention of Alden sends a fresh wave of grief through me. Just 4 months gone, taken by a liver disease that progressed too quickly for treatment. The healing weekend, that's what Tobin had called this trip. A chance for Willa and me to connect with family after our loss. For healing. What a cruel joke. I think back to last night, the marshmallows roasting over the fire, Dad telling his exaggerated fishing stories, Diane showing Willa how to identify constellations. Everything had seemed so normal. How long had they been planning this? "Mom?" Willa's voice pulls me back again. "What do we do now?" I look at my daughter, 9 years old and already too familiar with Lawson. Something inside me hardens into resolve. They thought they could break us. They thought wrong. I open the backpack and take inventory again, this time methodically. 2 water bottles, 3 protein bars. lighter, compass. My mind shifts into problem-solving mode, the same way it did when Alden got sick, when the first doctor gave us his diagnosis, when I had to keep our business running while watching my husband fade away. One step at a time. That's how we'll survive this. Willa watches me with those solemn eyes, so much like her father's. I see a flash of his strength in her face. We follow the water downstream. I tell her, my voice growing stronger with each word, water leads to people, and people can help us get home. She nods, trusting me completely. I won't let that trust be misplaced. I won't let them win. The morning sun burns through the thin nylon of our tent. Sweat beads along my hairline as I stuff our sleeping bags into compression sacks. Willa sits cross-legged on the ground, carefully folding Alden's tattered field guide to Oregon wildlife. Mom, look what I found in my backpack. She holds up the book, its spine cracked from years of use. Dad packed it for me special. My throat tightens. Even in death, Alden protects us better than my living family. That was thoughtful of him. I force a smile, not wanting to burden her with the rage simmering beneath my skin. I turn back to our meager supplies. Something catches my eye, an uneven seam along the bottom of my backpack. I run my fingers along the edge and feel a stiff paper hidden within the lining. What's that? Willa asks, peering over my shoulder. My fingernails work at the stitching until it gives way. I pull out a folded sheet of paper with familiar handwriting, Tobin's precise architectural lettering. A map. My blood runs cold as I trace the marked route with my fingertip. It leads deeper into the wilderness, away from any ranger stations or campgrounds, the opposite direction from the water route I'd planned. Son of a... I bite back the word, conscious of Willa watching. He wanted us to get more lost. Who, Uncle Tobin? I nod, my jaw clenched so tight it aches. The realization crashes over me like ice water. This wasn't just abandonment. This was calculated elimination. My mind races backward through the past months. Tobin showing up at Alden's funeral with documents for me to sign. Just insurance papers. He'd said, Dad thinks it's best if I help you as co-executor of the will. You have enough to worry about. I'd signed them, grief-blind and trusting. 3 weeks ago, Tobin had visited the flagship Willow and Thyme location. His words echo in my memory. The business is struggling without Alden. Let me buy in 20%. You need a partner now. The business is fine, I told him, showing him our latest quarterly reports. We're actually up 7% from last year. The flicker of something dark across his face should have warned me. The family dinner that followed turned tense when Dad backed Tobin. Victoria, be reasonable. Women don't think clearly after losing a husband. Tobin has your best interests at heart. I'd walked out, taking Willa for ice cream instead of enduring more reasonable advice from men who'd never brewed a day's worth of tea in their lives. Now it all makes horrifying sense. Mom? Willa's voice pulls me back. What are we going to do? I strike a match and touch it to the corner of Tobin's map, watching as flames consume his careful instructions. We're going to do exactly what he doesn't expect. We're going to survive. The paper curls and blackens, floating away as ash. I turn to the backpack's main compartment and empty it completely, arranging everything on the ground. 2 water bottles, 3 protein bars, lighter, compass. I add Alden's guidebook to our inventory. Your dad loved this forest. I tell Willa, running my hand over the book's weathered cover. He brought me here the first summer we dated. He showed me how to identify which plants were safe. Willa's eyes widen. He taught me too. Look, she points to a bush with small berries. Those are huckleberries. Dad said they're good to eat. My chest swells with unexpected pity and hope. That's right. Your father is still helping us. I think of my grandmother too. How she'd take me foraging in the woods behind her cottage, teaching me which barks could be brewed for headaches, which roots helped with stomach pain. Knowledge I'd later incorporated into our specialty tea blends. Knowledge that might keep us alive now. Here's what we're going to do. I tell Willa, my voice stronger than I feel. We'll follow the water downstream, but we'll also look for food along the way. Your dad's book will help us know what's safe. She nods solemnly, pulling the stuffed fox closer to her chest. The sky darkens as we work together gathering branches. I show Willa how to weave them into a crude shelter, angling it against the wind as the first raindrops begin to fall. Will someone come looking for us? she asks as we huddle under our makeshift roof. The question tears at me. I could lie, tell her help is just around the corner, but the truth is more terrifying. Dad and Diane had mentioned taking a cruise after our healing weekend. Emma, my business partner, knows I plan to take 2 full weeks off my first real break since Alden's diagnosis. They will, I say carefully, but not right away. What I don't tell her. No one will miss us for at least 2 weeks. By then, what will remain of our lives back home? How many documents will bear my forged signature? As night falls, Willa begins to cough. I place my hand on her forehead and feel unnatural warmth. A knot of fear tightens in my stomach. Just a little cold, she whispers, trying to sound brave. Rain pounds our shelter as I hold her close, my mind racing through what Tobin stands to gain. Alden's life insurance, my business, Willa's trust fund. This isn't just about survival in the wilderness. It's about what will be left to return if we return at all. Willa shivers against me, her small body radiating heat. Tell me a story about Dad, she murmurs. I stroke her hair, watching raindrops find their way through our imperfect shelter, and begin the story of how Alden and I built Willow in time from nothing but dreams and determination. The story of what Tobin is trying to steal from us both. The days blur into one another. 4 sunrises since the morning I woke to find our family gone. 4 nights of fitful sleep on forest ground that never quite warms beneath our bodies. I scratch another mark into the bark of the pine tree beside our makeshift shelter, using the tip of a sharp stone. Is it Thursday? Willa asks, her voice smaller than yesterday. I hesitate. I think so, sweetie. Time has become liquid here, flowing without the markers of schedules and clocks. Back home, Tobin is likely sitting in my office at Willow and Time. I picture him at my desk, rifling through my files, calling our suppliers with that convincing voice of his. Such tragic news about Victoria, he'd say, voice pitched to perfect concern. But don't worry, the family is stepping in to handle everything. The weight of his betrayal sits like a stone in my stomach. Not just Tobin, but Dad, Diane. My own family calculated exactly how much my absence was worth to them. They measured the value of my life, and Willisand found it acceptable. When I close my eyes, I see Dad nodding his approval as Tobin outlined their plan. Victoria's always been soft, he probably said. She won't last 2 days out there. Willa coughs, pulling me from these poisonous thoughts. Her small body radiates heat as I press my palm to her forehead. Mom? Her eyes shine too bright. The trees are dancing. My heart hammers against my ribs. Fever. The protein bars ran out yesterday, and our last sips of clean water disappeared this morning. I've been melting dew into a water bottle cap, but it's not enough. Just rest, I whisper, arranging our thin sleeping bag around her shoulders. While she drifts into restless sleep, I survey our surroundings with new desperation. The tea shop owner, the woman who agonized over quarterly projections and customer satisfaction surveys, seems like a stranger now. That Victoria couldn't identify edible plants or build a shelter from pine branches. This Victoria has scraped together fire from friction and dried moss. This Victoria knows that hunger feels like a living creature, gnawing from the inside out. I touch the knife edge of a white willow leaf, remembering Grandma Rose's voice. Nature provides what we need if we know how to look. Mom had rolled her eyes at these lessons. Your grandmother and her useless weeds, she'd say. Dad would nod, adding, real medicine comes from pharmacies, Victoria. But Grandma Rose knew better. White willow bark contains salicynature's aspirin. I strip thin layers of bark from the willow tree, careful not to damage it deeply. My hands, once manicured for client meetings, are now cracked and dirt-embedded. I crush the bark between 2 rocks, then steep it in water heated with hot stones from our small fire. Willa, I murmur, lifting her head. Drink this. It doesn't taste good, but it will help. She grimaces but swallows obediently. I stroke her tangled hair back from her burning forehead and sing the lullaby Alden created just for her. The words catch in my throat when I reach the second verse, his voice so clear in my memory it's as if he stands beside me. Night falls. The forest grows loud with unseen creatures. Willa's breathing remains rapid, her small body fighting the fever. I bank our fire carefully, preserving embers for morning. With Willa finally asleep, I crawl just beyond our shelter and let the tears come. Silent, shaking sobs that leave me hollow. I don't know if I can do this alone. I whisper to the canopy of stars visible through the trees. A warm breeze touches my face, carrying the scent of pine and earth. For one impossible moment, I feel Alden's presence solid and certain. You're stronger than all of them, his voice echoes in my memory. You always have been. Was it memory or imagination? Does it matter? I wipe my face with dirt-stained hands and return to Willa's side. By morning, her fever has broken. She sits up, weak but clear-eyed, asking for water. The relief leaves me lightheaded. You did doctor stuff, she says, watching me collect dew from leaves. Like Dad showed me. Your dad showed you about medicines? Willa nods. He said his mom was a nurse, so he knew things. He showed me stars, too. She points upward, though it's daylight now. That one that doesn't move is north. We can follow it at night. My throat tightens. Alden, still helping us find our way home. Together we forage, Willa spotting a cluster of hazelnuts, me identifying blackberries growing in a sunny patch. We eat slowly, savoring each bite. The simple pleasure of food after near starvation brings tears to my eyes. Mom, look! Willa points to something half buried in moss. I brush away decades of growth to reveal a faded metal marker and old ranger trail sign. My fingers trace the embossed arrow pointing northwest. Civilization, I breathe. That afternoon we discover a blackberry patch larger than the first to feast compared to our meager findings. As Willa carefully picks the ripest berries, I tear a blank page from Alden's wilderness guide that was tucked in Willa's backpack. Using charcoal from our fire, I begin mapping our journey, marking the creek, the white willow grove, the ranger marker. What are you doing? Willa asks, purple juice staining her chin. Creating our way home, I answer. That night, with Willa asleep beside our small fire, I twist my wedding ring around my finger. The gold catches the firelight, warm against my skin. For months after Alden died, this ring felt like a weight. Now it feels like strength. I think of Tobin's smug face the last time we met 3 weeks ago at the family dinner where he'd pressed me about selling part of Willow and Thyme to him. You're drowning, Vic, he'd said. Let me help before you take Alden's legacy down with you. His words had stung because part of me feared he was right. The grief had been suffocating, the business overwhelming without Alden's steady partnership. But here, stripped of everything except survival, I've found clarity. My grief hasn't weakened me, it's tempered me like steel. Your dad loved these forests, I tell Willa's sleeping form. He could name every tree, every star. He said nature reminded him that problems are temporary but beauty is constant. Dad would have brought more snacks, Willa murmurs, her eyes still closed. A startled laugh escapes Mitha, first real laughter in months. Yes, I agree, wiping my eyes. He definitely would have. 8 days into our ordeal, I spotted a thin column of smoke rising above distant trees. My heart leaps, then hesitates. It could be a campfire, other hikers. Or it could be a forest fire, dangerous and unpredictable. Willa follows my gaze. Is that people? Maybe. I chew my lip, calculating we've established a routine hair shelter, water source, food we recognize. Moving means risk. But staying means giving Tobin more time to dismantle my life piece by piece. Willa's hand slips into mine. Her fingers are thin, her once round face drawn from days of insufficient food. But her eyes, Alden's eyes, show nothing but determination. Mom, we need to try, she says simply. I nod, gathering our few possessions. Using strips torn from our sleeping bag, I fashion a carrying pack to hold Willa when her strength inevitably fails. The smoke lies at least 2 miles away through difficult terrain. As I hoist Willa onto my back, I feel something solidify within me. We will reach that smoke. We will find our way back. And when we do, Tobin and my parents will discover exactly what they've created. Not a victim, but a survivor. Not an obstacle easily removed, but a force they gravely underestimated. I take the first step toward the distant smoke, Willa's arms wrapped around my neck, her breath warm against my hair. Hold tight, I tell her. We're going home. The ranger station stands before us like a mirage, its weathered logs and sagging porch the most beautiful sight I've seen in days. My legs tremble beneath Willa's weight. 8 days in the wilderness have stripped us to essentials we are: hunger and determination wrapped in filthy clothes. Mom, is it real? Willa whispers against my neck, her voice cracked from dehydration. It's real, baby. I stagger the final 20 yards, pine needles crunching under my blistered feet. The door hangs crooked on rusted hinges, a broken padlock dangling uselessly. Someone has been here before us, but not recently. Inside smells of dust and animal droppings. Cobwebs drape the corners like tattered lace. But against the far wall sits exactly what I'd hoped for. A radio console, its metal casing dulled with age. I lower Willa onto a wooden bench, our last protein bar clutched in her small hand. Tiny bites, remember? Make it last. The radio looks ancient, all knobs and dials instead of digital displays. I pull off the dust cover, and my heart leaps. No obvious damage, just disconnected wires and a missing power source. Tobin's voice echoes in my memory. All that tech knowledge and you make tea for a living? What a waste of potential, Vic. My fingers trace the disconnected wires, color-coded and familiar. The circuitry isn't so different from the point-of-sale systems I troubleshoot at our shops. Engineering minor, business major. The degree he mocked might save our lives. Hours blur as I work, salvaging parts from an old flashlight I find in a drawer, reconnecting wires with paper clips straightened between my teeth. Willa sleeps fitfully on the bench, her breathing shallow. When the power light finally blinks green, tears spring to my eyes. Hello? This is Victoria Maddox at... Static cuts through my words, then silence. The light flickers, then dies. No! I pound the console with my fist, desperation surging through me. So close. Willa stirs. Did it work? I swallow hard. Time for plan B. Outside, we gather fallen branches, arranging them in a massive H for helicopter in the clearing. My arms burn with effort as I drag logs twice my weight. Willa helps despite her weakness, her determination a mirror of Alden's. The afternoon sun slants low when we finish. I strike our precious lighter against kindling piled at each end of the H. Wet leaves on the flames, I instruct Willa. We need smoke more than fire. Green smoke billows upward, a desperate prayer rising into the cloudless sky. We huddle together on a rock, scanning the horizon until our eyes burn. Mom, look! Willa points west, where a black speck moves against the blue. The helicopter seems impossibly distant, its path taking it nowhere near our signal. Panic claws at my throat. No, they can't miss us. I fumble at my neck, unclasping Alden's gift, a compass with a polished metal lid that catches the sun. I angle it toward the helicopter, flashing light in deliberate patterns. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. SOS in the universal language of light. The helicopter continues its path for 1 heart-stopping minute. Then it banks, changing course toward our signal. They saw us! Willa's voice cracks with joy. We cling to each other, laughing and crying as the sound of rotors grows from whisper to thunder. The rescue team finds us dehydrated, filthy, but alive. 10 days after waking to emptiness. A medic wraps a thermal blanket around my shoulders. What happened? How did you end up here? I meet his eyes, my voice steady despite my racing heart. My brother Tobin abandoned us here. He left us to die. The medic exchanges glances with his partner. Ma'am, that can't be right. Your family reported you missing yesterday. They've been frantic. Yesterday. The world tilts beneath me. 10 days in the wilderness, but they only reported us missing yesterday? The calculation is simple, devastating. They never expected us to survive this long. In the helicopter, Willa sleeps against me as we fly toward civilization. Beneath us, the forest stretches endless and green, beautiful and cruel, like family. A ranger passes me a satellite phone. Hospital in Bend is standing by. They have some questions, something about a death petition that was filed. Death petition. My brother wasn't just hoping we'd die. He was counting on it. The hospital room door swings open later that day. Tobin stands framed in the doorway, his eyes red-rimmed with perfectly timed tears. A news camera hovers just behind his shoulder, catching his performance in high definition. But they don't know that I have already pulled the strings and am waiting for them to make a slight mistake and crush them totally. Vicky, he breathes, rushing toward me with open arms. Thank God, we've been searching everywhere. I keep my hands folded in my lap, unmoved by the spectacle. Behind him, my parents file in, faces arranged in identical masks of concern. My mother's pearl earrings catch the fluorescent light as she dabs at dry eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. The whole community has been praying for you, Tobin continues for the benefit of the camera. His voice breaks on cue. When we realized you and Willa had wandered off. The lie hangs in the air between us. In the adjacent bed, Willa sleeps deeply, an IV replenishing fluids in her thin arm. The camera crew needs to leave, I say quietly. Tobin's smile flickers. They're documenting our reunion. People have been following your story. Out. The word comes out sharp enough to slice. Once the door closes behind the camera crew, the transformation is immediate. My father's shoulders straighten. My mother's trembling lip stills. Tobin's devastated expression hardens into something calculating. You've created quite a mess, my father says, voice low. Telling those rangers we abandoned you? Think about what you're doing to this family. My mother moves closer, her perfume too sweet in the antiseptic room. Darling, you were confused out there. Dehydrated. Imagining things. The doctors say you might have eaten something that caused hallucinations, Tobin adds smoothly. It happens to hikers all the time. I noticed the small recorder in his pocket, red light blinking. Evidence of my supposed delusions, no doubt. We're just glad you're safe, my father continues. Now we need to handle this quietly. A man in an expensive suit appears in the doorway, a leather portfolio tucked under his arm. Clifton Myers, our family attorney since I was a child. He nods at my father before approaching my bed. Victoria, these are simple papers acknowledging your disorientation during the ordeal. He explains, sliding documents onto my tray table. Just a formality to clear up any misunderstandings with the authorities. Tobin leans close, his voice barely above a whisper. Fight this, and Willa will spend the next year in courtrooms and therapists' offices. Is that what you want for her after everything she's been through? The door opens again. Emma, my business partner, steps in. Her typically composed face is drawn with worry. She glances warily at my family before addressing me. They tried to access the company accounts, Vic. All of them, claiming you were missing and presumed dead. She holds up her phone. They had papers drawn up. Tobin was positioning himself to take control of everything. My father's hand clamps down on her arm. This is a family matter. I look at the papers before me, then at my sleeping daughter. For 10 days we fought to survive. Now they expect me to surrender with the stroke of a pen. Could everyone please step back from my bed? I ask, my voice surprisingly steady. Something in my tone makes them comply. I reach for the call button and press it once. I'd like Agent Danvers to join us, please. I smile at their confusion. We've been having some lovely chats while you were all searching for me. The FBI agent enters within moments, nodding respectfully. Miss Maddox. I believe it's time, I tell her. From beneath my pillow, I withdraw a plastic evidence bag containing Tobin's mud-stained note. This was left under a stone when my family vanished with all our supplies. My brother's handwriting. Agent Danvers takes it. That matches our analysis. I pull out my watch, cracked but functional. The GPS tracking was still working. It marks our exact location of abandonment plus our desperate route to survival. My mother's hand flies to her throat. Victoria, stop this nonsense. The Rangers found something interesting at their abandoned station. I continue as if she hadn't spoken. The voice recorder I activated after fixing their radio. Tobin's face drains of color. I detailed everything. The note. The map marked with a route leading deeper into wilderness. The missing supplies. Emma steps forward, placing a thumb drive on my tray table. And I brought these. Emails between Tobin and your father discussing the takeover of Willow in time. Plans dated 3 weeks before your trip. This is absurd, my father blusters. You can't possibly believe. The handwriting analysis came back. Agent Danvers interrupts. The note matches the forged will amendment we found in Mr. Myers' office files. More agents appear in the doorway. Myers begins stuffing papers back into his portfolio. We have a notary public who's suddenly very cooperative, Agent Danvers continues. Something about not wanting to be an accessory to attempted murder. I meet my brother's eyes across the room. The hatred there doesn't surprise me anymore. You left us to die, I say simply. But we survived. Agent Danvers nods to her colleagues. Russell Bennett, Diane Bennett, Tobin Bennett, you're under arrest for attempted murder, child endangerment, conspiracy to commit fraud, and attempted embezzlement. The handcuffs click like punctuation marks at the end of a long sentence. I turn away as they're led from the room, my focus returning to Willa's sleeping form. Through the window, camera flashes light up the hospital parking lot. A reporter thrusts a microphone toward my brother as agents guide him toward a waiting vehicle. "Miss Maddox, do you have a statement?" A voice calls from the doorway. I look up, suddenly bone-weary. This was never about money. It was about a child's life. Later, when the room has quieted and twilight softens the edges of the world, Agent Danvers returns. She stands by the window, watching Willa sleep. "The judge denied bail," she says, cited the extraordinary callousness of the alleged crime. I nod, fingers gently brushing Willa's hair from her forehead. "What will you do now?" Danvers asks. The question hangs in the air as I look out the window at the distant pine-covered mountains that almost became our grave. 10 days ago, I had no answer. Now, watching my daughter's peaceful breathing, I find I still don't. But for entirely different reasons. At the present, the white willow sapling bends with the spring breeze, its silver-green leaves catching the morning light. I press my palms into the fresh soil around its slender trunk, feeling the cool earth beneath my fingernails. 6 months ago, my hands trembled from exhaustion and fear. Today, they're steady and certain. "Is it happy now, Mom?" Willa kneels beside me in our garden, her dark hair pulled back in a braid similar to mine. At 9, almost 10, her face has lost some of its roundness, but her eyes remain Alden's, thoughtful and warm. I think so. I sit back on my heels, surveying our backyard sanctuary. Raised beds burst with herbs, lemon balm, mint, chamomile, and dozens more, a practical garden that feeds both body and soul. So different from the forest floor where I once frantically searched for medicinal plants while Willa burned with fever. The phone rings inside our Hood River cottage. I wipe my hands on my jeans and head toward the kitchen, where sunlight streams through windows that face the Columbia River. Victoria Maddox. My voice sounds different these days, stronger, with a certainty I had forgotten was mine. It's over. Emma, my business partner and the friend who stood by me when others scattered. 14 years for Tobin, 8 each for Russell and Diane. I trace my finger along the smooth countertop, remembering the rough bark I once clung to while climbing down a ravine. "Thank you for being there, I couldn't—" "Stop." Emma's voice is firm. "You would have done the same. Besides, watching their faces when the judge read those sentences was—" She pauses. "Satisfying." Through the window, I watch Willa carefully watering the willow. The tree that saved her life now grows in our gardenia, reminder not of what we endured, but what we overcame. "Any regrets about not attending?" Emma asks. "None." I pull a batch of blueberry scones from the oven, Alden's recipe that Willa and I make every Saturday morning. We're planting a tree instead. After hanging up, I arrange the scones on the blue ceramic plate Willa painted last month. The kitchen smells of butter, vanilla, and possibility so far removed from the smoke of desperate campfires and fear. Outside, Willa has set up her easel. Another forest painting takes shape under her careful strokes, not dark and threatening, but alive with filtered light. The therapist says this is how she processes. I say this is how she transforms. Snack time, artist. I set the plate on our patio table. She wipes her hands on a cloth and studies me. "You got the call, didn't you? About the bad people." I've never lied to her, not even when the truth was brutal. "Yes, justice happened today." Willa nods once, then takes a scone. "Good. Nothing more needs saying." Tomorrow, 12 women will gather in our living room for the first meeting of the wilderness skills class I'm teaching. The waiting list grew to 40 names after the newspaper article. I turned down the national interviews, the book deals, the documentary requests. One local story was enough, focusing not on the betrayal, but on the warning signs of financial exploitation that others might recognize. Willow and Thyme reopened 3 months ago with a new line of wilderness survival teas. The forest floor blend sells out weekly. At dusk, after Willow went inside, I sit alone in the garden. The white willow's bark glows in the fading light. I run my fingers along it, remembering how I stripped similar bark with numb hands to brew fever-reducing tea for my daughter. "We made it, Alden," I whisper to the evening air. Where once I feared silence, I now find peace in it. Where once I needed others' approval, I now stand complete. The wilderness stripped everything away, but what mattered most, and in doing so, showed me my own strength. The porch light clicks on. Willa stands in the doorway in her pajamas, silhouetted against the warm light of our home. "Mom?" she asks, her voice sleepy but curious. Are we going camping this summer? The question catches me off guard. My breath hitches a momentary tightness in my chest. Then I look at her standing there, unafraid despite everything, and something shifts inside me. I smile gently. Yes. But this time, we'll bring extra snacks.